The hearing room already felt tense before she even spoke. Papers shuffled quietly across polished wooden desks. Lawmakers avoided eye contact while cameras rolled, capturing every movement. It was supposed to be another routine immigration enforcement hearing, the kind where prepared statements are read, statistics are debated, and nothing really changes. But something different was about to happen. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat silently, listening carefully. Her expression remained calm, but her focus suggested she was waiting for the exact moment to speak. Around her, lawmakers discussed border enforcement using technical language, legal arguments, and carefully rehearsed talking points. The discussion sounded distant, almost detached, like it was about numbers instead of human lives. Then one lawmaker described recent enforcement operations as necessary removals to restore order. The phrase lingered in the air. Some lawmakers nodded. Others continued writing notes. That's when Crockett slowly leaned forward. She pressed her microphone button. The small click echoed louder than expected in the quiet room. "Let's be honest about what we're talking about," she said firmly. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Cameras zoomed in. Lawmakers looked up. What had sounded like routine policy discussion suddenly felt personal. Crockett began describing families separated during enforcement operations. Children watching parents taken away. Communities living in fear of unexpected raids. She spoke slowly and calmly, never raising her voice, but each word carried weight. "You can call it enforcement," she said, "but the people experiencing it don't hear legal language. They hear fear at their front door." Across the room, one representative quickly prepared to respond. He defended enforcement as lawful and necessary. His tone was controlled, but clearly defensive. Crockett nodded respectfully. "No one is questioning whether laws exist," she replied. "The question is how those laws are enforced and whether we recognize the difference between justice and harm." A ripple of whispers spread across the room. She continued, describing reports of mistaken detentions and rushed deportation decisions. She talked about families struggling to understand complex legal systems. Her examples painted emotional images that statistics alone could never capture. "You say this is about security?" she asked. "But security for who?" The question hung in the air. No one answered immediately. Another lawmaker jumped in, arguing that strong enforcement protects American communities and discourages illegal border crossings. His voice grew louder, confident and certain. Crockett remained still, listening carefully. Then she responded calmly. "I hear you talking about borders," she said. "I'm talking about people." The difference between those two ideas suddenly felt enormous. She described workers afraid to report exploitation, families hesitant to call police because of immigration fears, children growing up unsure if their parents would still be home at the end of the day. Then came the moment that would later spread across social media. "We cannot pretend this is just paperwork and procedure," Crockett said, leaning closer to the microphone. "We are talking about human lives. And when enforcement loses its humanity, that's not America." The room fell silent. Even lawmakers who disagreed paused, absorbing the weight of her words. Finally, a senior committee member responded. He argued enforcement protects national security, prevents trafficking, and maintains order. He listed statistics and enforcement results, presenting what sounded like a strong defense. Crockett listened without interrupting. When he finished, she calmly pressed her microphone again. Laws are enforced by people, she said. And people make choices. That statement shifted the entire conversation. She explained how enforcement priorities determine outcomes. Decisions about who gets detained, how families are treated, and when operations occur all involve human judgment. That's where accountability lies, she said. A representative quickly interrupted, arguing accountability also means protecting American citizens. Crockett nodded. And accountability also means protecting human dignity, she answered. The hearing was no longer routine. It had become deeply personal. Crockett shared the story of a mother detained during a workplace raid while her children waited at school for a parent who never arrived home. Her voice remained steady, but the story changed the emotional tone of the room. Imagine explaining that to a child, she said quietly. Some lawmakers shifted uncomfortably. Others avoided eye contact. Another committee member argued emotional stories should not replace policy discussions. Crockett responded immediately. When incidents become patterns, she said, they stop being isolated. Her argument slowed the conversation. She reminded lawmakers that oversight hearings exist to examine those patterns and ensure government power is used responsibly. Then another lawmaker raised statistics about border crossings and warned that reducing enforcement would encourage illegal entry. Crockett leaned forward again. Compassion and enforcement are not opposites, she said. You can enforce laws without treating people as disposable. The room grew quiet again. The debate was no longer just about immigration policy. It had become about values, how government power should be used and what responsibility comes with it. If enforcement creates fear so deep that communities stop trusting institutions, she said, we weaken the very system we claim to protect. A frustrated lawmaker finally challenged her directly. So what exactly are you proposing? He asked. Crockett paused. The silence made everyone listen more closely. I'm proposing, she said slowly, that we remember who we are. She described America as a nation built on law but also built on opportunity. She spoke about balancing security with compassion and enforcement with fairness. Another representative argued immigration officers face impossible situations and cannot make emotional decisions in the field. Crockett answered calmly. I'm not asking officers to make emotional decisions, she said. I'm asking policymakers to make responsible ones. That statement shifted attention back toward Congress itself. The debate continued, moving between data and personal stories, enforcement concerns, and humanitarian arguments. Crockett emphasized that statistics measure outcomes but they don't always measure consequences. Policy success cannot be measured only in removals, she said. Then came another tense exchange when a lawmaker insisted strong deterrence is necessary. Deterrence without humanity becomes punishment, Crockett replied. And punishment without due process becomes injustice. The room grew silent once more. She described how fear can reduce cooperation with law enforcement, making communities less safe overall. She emphasized that smarter enforcement focused on serious crime could improve both security and public trust. We cannot lose our humanity in the process, she said. As the hearing approached its end, a senior lawmaker asked a final question. Do you believe immigration enforcement and American values can coexist? Crockett paused before answering. Yes, she said. But only if we choose to make them coexist. She explained that laws alone do not define a country the way those laws are applied does. Enforcement decisions, oversight, and policy reforms all shape whether the system reflects fairness or fear. America has always been a work in progress, she said. Her voice softened slightly as she delivered her closing thought. When future generations look back at moments like this, they won't just ask what laws we enforced, she said. They'll ask how we treated people. The room remained silent. We can protect our borders, she concluded, without losing our character. Moments later, the chairman tapped the gavel and adjourned the hearing. Papers moved. Conversations restarted. Lawmakers left the chamber. But the impact of the exchange had already spread beyond the room. Clips from the hearing began circulating online, replaying the moment again and again. The line people remembered most was simple. That's not America. The microphones were turned off. The lights dimmed. The hearing was over. But the conversation had only just begun.